What up, what up, what up? Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to the next installment of OMSTV brings you the STEM files. Again, as my colleague who had another engagement, Tariq Muhammad, always says, we are no longer on Blog Talk Radio. Again, we are no longer on Blog Talk Radio. This is OMSTV on YouTube. My name is Jabril Muhammad, aka Jabril Engineer. I'm holding it down while my colleague has an engagement. So just very excited for our guest today, Dr. Mary Payton. I'm really not going to go much into her. I want her to just kind of go into what it is that she does and just all of the things that she does, because I'm looking over her bio right now, guys, and she has a lot of experience with STEM as well as education. So without further ado, Dr. Mary Payton, could you please kind of introduce yourself and kind of go into a bit of your background?
Hey, Jabril, this is Dr. Mary Payton, and my background. Well, I started out in STEM as a kid because it's something I think my mother made me do it to keep me busy because I was always taking her stuff apart and putting it back together. But I graduated from the University of Texas at Arlington with a degree in biology and kinesiology. And people would tell me, those don't match. You're in two male-dominated fields. Why are you doing this? Well, I like sports and I like science. My mother wanted me to be a pre-med major. I wanted to be a coach. So, but the science kind of took the forefront of everything. I went into the military as a chemical officer. My specialization there was nuclear physics, health physics. So I did that for right at 30 years. But while I was in, I also coached basketball for 16 years. So I had a great time.
Okay. That's what I'm talking about.
I
Multi-talented.
I coached and I officiated for 16 years. That's why I have horrible knees, but that's okay. It was all worth it.
Yes,
But I retired in 2011 and went into teaching high school because while I was in college, I also got my teacher certification to have a backup, and went to teaching high school. And I taught chemistry and physics and biology. And during that time, I had some kids. I was working at a urban school, predominantly Hispanic and African American, and we had a university that was near us that had a engineering program. And I'm like, why are my kids not going there? This program is free. Why are they not going? So I got the dean of the math department who ran the program to come to my school. And that year, I think I had about 15 or 20 kids that wanted to go. So I'm like, wait a minute. I think I need to be there just in case something. So I volunteered. I volunteered to work that summer at Texas Wesleyan to help out. Lo and behold, I found out that I was now the robotics and pre-engineering instructor. I'm like, I don't know anything about robots.
Right.
That was in 2012. And I've been building robots and teaching science somewhere ever since. So I've worked in the UAE, in Dubai, and now I'm in South Korea.
So I just hope everyone's listening. We have a lifelong educator. We have a basketball coach. We have a STEM extraordinaire, right? We have all these kind of wrapped into one. And we have a world traveler as well. You know, it's funny to have you on the show right as I'm coming back, as we were talking, me coming back from overseas, working. A lot of the things that you've been doing are things that I personally have been interested in. And kind of going into your background in education. Education has always been something very, very important in my life, and especially me and my brother's life. So I was homeschooled for 7 years, from second to ninth grade. And the amount of sacrifice that I saw my mother and father go through in regard to just really making it a point for my brother and I's interest to be catered to, whether it was
Mhm.
the violin, STEM at an early age, just whether we needed to learn at a quicker pace or kind of spend
Yep.
extra time on it. Can you just speak to the importance of, as an educator, really, really understanding the needs of your students more so than just academic, but also on a more internal level?
Oh yeah. Um, well, let me back up first. You said that you were homeschooled,
Yes, ma'am.
and for the homeschool parents out there, it is very important that if you're going to homeschool your kids, also get them with groups that focus on STEM. I
Absolutely.
uh, I homeschooled my older son in some of his classes. He took integrated chemistry and physics with me at home, and he took algebra.
Right.
The integrated chemistry and physics were easy. They were fine. We did all the labs and we did everything at home. But when it got to some of the algebra two, that went over my head a little bit. So we had to
Hmm.
get a tutor and get in a group.
Right.
Um, Being a STEM educator, it's not just lecture testing. The students need to actually put the theory into practice. When we talk about, let's say, biology, and you talk about photosynthesis, they
Mm.
have to understand not only the book words, the dark and the light cycle, and so on and so forth. They need to actually see what a stroma looks like. And it's easy to do that. They need to actually see what cellular respiration looks like, or
Mm.
transpiration in plants look
Right.
like. So you have to do labs, and you have to understand all your kids are different. Here in South Korea, my biggest class is 11 kids. My smallest class is 5. In the
Mm.
U.S., in Texas, I had 200 to 210 kids a day. Now, catering for the needs of different levels of kids, it's it's easy, but it's not easy. If all you do is lecture, you're going to lose some kids because some kids don't read.
Mm.
Not that they can't read, they just don't because they have other things in their lives that they're doing. Um, some kids aren't book smart. Some kids are more mechanical. If you show them how to do something, they can do it forever. Kids are artistic, so you have to cater your education to a variety of learning styles and a variety of learning situations. And kids, even in high school, are very, very inquisitive. There's a lab that I do that is ice. All it is melting ice.
Mm.
And you do the lab, you have like a big thing of ice, and you have a thermometer, and they're on a hot plate, and they're taking the temperature over 20 minutes. After a while, the graph levels off. And then the kids have to understand a characteristic of water, it has a boiling point of 100 degrees.
Jeez. Mm.
Once it hits that, it's not going to boil anymore. It's not going to get any hotter.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get scalded. The majority of the heat is from the steam. The steam is hotter. And for them to actually understand that, and it's just boiling water, but you take it boiling water to a whole another level. But
Mm.
yeah, and you just have to have a variety of things, and the kids pick it up.
Mm.
So
Wow. You know, I guess people talk a lot about, doing, I guess, if you want to call them mission trips, or when people talk about giving back, particularly young people, you always hear them talking about going somewhere else,
oh yeah.
doing it outside, particularly our people. I want to go study abroad here. I want to do a mission trip in, uh, I don't know, Nicaragua, or
Cambodia.
Spain, or Cambodia. These are the places, and a lot of times we miss what's happening right in our own backyard, in our
We do.
communities. How important is it to remember not only where you come from, particularly as a young black male or black female growing up and seeing your people around you in a condition where they may not have the access to STEM related things, or just the access to basic needs, and using the requisite knowledge that you've amassed to be able to kind of feed and refeed your community?
Speaking of that I'm going to go back to when I went to teach robotics and engineering.
Right.
The school that I was at was an extremely low income school.
Mm.
The program at Wesleyan was totally free. And the kids didn't even have to pay for meals. They just had to show up.
Right.
And my first year there, we didn't have bus service, but most of the kids lived in the neighborhood, shockingly, but none of the kids were going to the program. And so I started getting them to participate. And their parents started saying that their children are different. Instead of, let's say, the fan broke, a little rotary fan at home, it broke. The kids would fix it as opposed to being mad and saying, well, mama, it's hot in here. And parents would come to me and say, how did you get my child to do that?
Right.
But it's very important that all kids have access to things like this. And parents have to seek those things out for their kids. Because if they don't, their kids are going to miss out. Their kids aren't going to see their full potential or the full opportunities that they have out there for them. Also, having them do things at home is real important. For me, STEM started at home with my mom. We grew vegetables. We did canning.
You did canning?
Yeah, we canned
Okay.
vegetables, canned fruits.
Cool.
And then my stepfather made sure I knew how to work on my car. So, in high school, I could pull a transmission. It didn't even matter.
Okay.
Because he was like, you're going to go to college, and if something happens to your car, I don't want you stranded.
Right.
So back then, they used to have books that if you had a particular car, you had a book that went with your car. Not the one that you get from the dealer, but it's a repair.
Right, with your specific one. Okay.
When I went to college, he made sure I had the book that went with my car. It was that simple. So, I mean, it's very important that our kids in our urban communities, Black, Hispanic, Latina, Asian, all have access because it helps them to take care of themselves, one. Two, it gives them a broader range of things out there that they can do, that they never felt that they could do.
You know, you bring up a really good point just about the inquisitive nature of children, and you being one who's taught children from around the world. Now that you're teaching in Korea, kind of taking that and thinking about you teaching, over here to, quote unquote, African American children, or just children from the U.S. What have been some of the similarities in just the child in terms of like their approach to learning? What have been some of the differences? Just it could be classroom environment, just approach to learning, excitement about learning that you've experienced in those like kind of two arenas.
Let's start with the differences. The children here in Korea are very quiet. They don't necessarily want to start out speaking English because they don't want to say anything wrong. Okay. Now, once they warmed up to me, it was nonstop. The people here are kind of quiet and kind of soft spoken. And me being a woman from the South, ethnicity has no boundaries on that. We are very boisterous. And my students had to get used to that because they would tell me, Dr. Payton, you talk very loud. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm from the South. I can't help it. But getting the kids really to speak up and get involved in the classes started out a little bit difficult because they didn't want to be wrong. They didn't want to say anything wrong. They didn't want to do anything wrong.
Right.
But I found when I started making them accountable for some of their learning, it
Mm-hmm.
started to change. Having them do research on labs that they wanted to do in class and actually doing some of those experiments was just phenomenal. Um, I found it a little strange here, more so than the US and more so in Dubai. Um, my girls had a tendency to want to do labs that had explosions as opposed to
Hmm.
my boys. My boys were more mathematic and more technical here. So, if I gave them something to do, they need to know what is the math to make this work.
Mm.
How much of a chemical am I going to need to make this work? The girls, okay, we just want to see it blow up. And, that was kind of strange. But
Interesting.
in the US, it was pretty much the opposite. The boys wanted to blow everything up. The girls just kind of wanted to, okay, exactly what am I supposed to do so I don't mess anything up.
Right.
So it's a bit of a difference.
Okay.
But I mean, even there, even in the U.S., in Fort Worth, teaching 200 kids a day, I uh, I have the same teaching style, I have the same teaching mannerisms, and I have similar results. I have kids who learn, I have kids who are successful, and I'm happy with that.
It's so I had the pleasure a couple years back to teach have a long term substitute teaching position at a school called Antonia Pantoja. It's a bilingual school in
Mhm.
the Philadelphia area, seventh to eighth grade math and science, and just some of what you're talking about, the interactions with students, kind of balancing your interactions and talking to one student, seeing how they react to you. Um, Going into an experience I had, um, so I was done teaching, and I was working as an engineer, and I said I'm gonna go visit. So and I was just surprised, and I was like I'm visiting the last class that I had taught. So I'm going there. I got my little bag and everything, my work bag. So I go in and I'm greeted by the faculty. Oh, Mr. Muhammad, how you doing? Like, how are things going? What you up to right now? Just tell me what I'm up to. I said, where are all the students and everything? So I come at the perfect time. Everyone's in the lunchroom.
Mhm.
So I'm walking through. I ended up going to see the dean, and I walk in. So it's kind of like rowdy, but like kind of quiet at the same time. And no one kind of really sees me. I end up locking eyes with one student, young man that I had. And it was like when he realized who it was, he erupted, and it was like the whole room just erupted, and like everybody ran up to me and was like surrounding me. Everyone's telling me like where they're going to high school, that they like math now, that they're doing well in math now, and just for like one of the first times in my life, like really feeling fulfilled, like leaving a lasting impact. And what I hear from you is like like just nonstop impact after impact after impact, just like doing your best to try to not just impart or have a bit of knowledge just kind of go into somebody's brain. Okay, you learned this, but like you learned this, and you're
Yep.
you're becoming a better individual. You're getting out of your comfort zone. Maybe you were shy and now you're not. You're feeling more comfortable with speaking English, though you might make a mistake. We grew up speaking English and we have speak it right. you know, so, and it's like and we being people born in America.
Yeah.
So you know, just kind of vibing with you on that, and like understanding just as one who's had the pleasure of being an educator for a short period of time and also
Mhm.
being a mentor as well. It's just like that's some of the most reaffirming and just like joyous times I've had just being with young people, teaching and everything. So that's awesome. Um, so I'm going through your bio and I'm seeing a series you wrote. It's called Taylor STEM Adventures. Could you go into that a little bit? That piqued my interest. I was curious about that.
I've started a series. My oldest son's name is Taylor.
Okay.
And because I was in the military and I drove my kids everywhere with us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and everywhere we went, we did things, and a lot of them related to science, but I wasn't paying attention to that. I just wanted to get out and do stuff because your first time at your military duty station, you're stuck in a hotel for anywhere from 15 to 45 to 60 days. And to be stuck in a hotel with your children, it's enough to make you want to kill them. So you get out and you do as much as you can to not be stuck there. And so when we were in Hawaii, we went to see the volcanoes. We went on submarine rides.
Right.
We went to we went skiing in the mountains because they do have snow in Hawaii, surprisingly.
They do.
Yeah,
You have peaks and everything in Hawaii, so it would be. Yeah,
on
that's cool.
on the Big Islands. We went to the observatories, and my kids kept. Cause I've started so many books on my own and never finished for one of them. I've
Mm-hmm.
written 7 books in nuclear physics for the military, but I've never written on my own.
Right.
And so people kept saying, "Well, why don't you just write about what you know? Why don't you write about what you know?" So I started looking at books for military kids,
Mm-hmm.
and most of the books dealt with the psychological impact of having to move, the
Mm-hmm.
negative side
Right.
of having to move, having the PCS every 2 to 3 to 4 years. But my kids didn't feel that negative impact. Their thing was, when we get to our next duty station, what are we going to get to see? What are we going to
Right.
get to see? And so those are the things that I've been writing about. Is the when you look in the book, those are the actual things that we did. We went to Kilauea, which is now erupting. We went to Kilauea and saw the volcano. We saw it at night. We went down through the lava tubes. We took a submarine ride, which is like the coolest thing, to be in a tin can underwater, just looking at stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you
I've yet
know,
to do that. Yeah, I've been on like other ship classes, but never not subs yet.
let me tell you, when you do it,
Uh huh.
it's like your ears popping won't even matter.
Right.
You
Right.
you're just gonna be like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
I can sit here and look at all of this. But we did all of those things. We went up to the observatories. And so I wrote my book, or I'm writing the series, based on when a child moves to another military station, or even if a family travels to Hawaii or Texas or, Korea, what would the kid have to look forward to? And, these are things they can actually do because there are a lot of times kids get books, and the things in those books are someone's imagination.
Mm-hmm.
These are actual tangible things that they can do. These are life visions that they can have, or life events that they can have. So, and
That's
that's
awesome.
why I'm putting them together.
So, do you have somewhere? Are these books available, or they're still in the process of being
The
like aggregated and finished, or
the first one is available.
okay,
It's Taylor STEM Adventures Hawaii, and you can get that at Barnes and Noble online, or Amazon
okay,
online, hard copy, soft copy, or Kindle version.
okay,
And it is based on the elementary STEM vocabulary for grades 3 through 5, 3 through 5.
okay. Awesome,
So
awesome. That's really
mhm.
cool. Taylor STEM Adventures. I was
It's
looking,
something.
I said Taylor STEM Adventures. I said I know this lady ain't write no book. Well, series, a series of books. Okay. I was like, if it's not one thing, it's the next. Um, Coaching. So I play basketball. I play basketball pretty much. No, I'm sorry. Because it's like every time I say something, it leads me somewhere else. I got a bit of a stream of consciousness thing going on. So I play sports all my life. Favorite sport is basketball. I played since I was like 8. all the way up through college at different levels and whatnot. Can you talk a bit about your coaching background, some of your successes and some of your challenges, and like how those principles can be um, attributed to teaching and just life success principles?
Of course, of course. Um, like I said, I coached for 16 years. I mean, I was also an athlete, but you have to understand, I'm 5'3",
Right.
so I'm not tall.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not tall at all. But I was very athletic as a child. I was a gymnast. My mother played basketball. My father was, he came up playing baseball. So sports was in our family. Um, so I wanted to coach, and my parents were like, "This is the '70s. Girls don't coach." I'm like, "Okay." So I did what they wanted me to do. But when I went into the military, I was able to not only do my job there, but I became part of the sports association. And I've coached in Germany. I've coached in the U.S. All around the U.S. And what I loved about Germany, this is a little off task. I had a young lady who was a pilot, helicopter pilot. So there were times when the basketball team would fly to different bases so she could get her flight time in. So that,
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
but through the '70s and '80s, it was kind of different with being a female because a lot of men were like, "Where's the coach?" And I'll be like, "Here I am." They're like,
Mm-hmm.
"No, you're not the coach."
Right.
Yes, I am.
Right.
Um, it became a lot of camaraderie, with the team members and their families. And I think even then I was much younger, but I kind of became mama to most of them because I'm a great cook. So they knew if they wanted to eat, they could always stop by the house and get a plate of food or whatever. But being able to do what I wanted to do, being able to travel, still do my job with the military, but also do my passion, which was sports. And basketball wasn't my first thing. Gymnastics was, but
Mm-hmm.
because I played basketball at home with my parents, it like I say, I'm 5'3", so I was not the tallest thing in the crayon box.
Right.
Uh, so there were techniques that I learned growing up uh, of how to make a basket or how to get a shot or how to get around somebody because I was so little. Um, Even when I moved to San Antonio, the gentleman across the street was a basketball coach, and he got my youngest son to come play for him, and his daughter also played. And he's like, she can't make free throws, she can't make a shot. I'm like, why can't she make a shot?
Mm-hmm.
I said, there is a little square above that goal. I mean, above the goal. If she hits anywhere in that square, that ball is gonna go in the basket.
Right.
And you have got to be kidding. I'm like, you've been coaching these kids, and you just want them to get net. Uh,
Right.
get net is not always, especially when you're on the free throw line, is not gonna always get you the point. And free throws are free shots.
Right.
And so I played him one on one, and I hit the basket probably 80, 85% of the time. And he's like, I said, it's all physics. It's all about that little square over the rim.
Tim Duncan knew that well. He, he knew that well. I said, golly, I never seen a bank shot so pretty. Oh man. Ooh.
But I coached post level ball, military post level ball, and loved it. We traveled all over Germany, traveled all over the U.S. But I don't understand why when I did coach why my girls were so rough. There would be time. There was twice. once in Frankfurt and once in these Mainz-Castell. All of my girls fouled out except except 3 players. We still won. But it's you said, how does that relate to my teaching? It's knowing the strengths of people. I think coaching showed me how to look at the strengths of people. Everybody can't do everything, but they can do something. That's like right. I had one girl, she was probably 5'11", 5'10", thick girl, could not shoot a basket to save her life, slow as molasses, but she could take a charge like it was nothing.
That's right.
Baby, just get in the way. Yep. And she could foul out people on the other team like it was nothing. I mean, I could look at speed, endurance, but everybody had something. They brought something to the table. And that's what I looked at, was that they brought something to the table. And that's how I look at my students. I have teachers even here that will ask me, how did you get that student to do that? I just asked them. You talk to them. You use their strengths. You use their weaknesses. You don't ever tell a kid what they can't do. You tell them what they can do. It's just like when I coach basketball. I never told my team members what they can't do. I told them what they can do and what they better do. And we went to Frankfurt, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna stop talking about how bad of a coach I was. Frankfurt came to us one year and clipped one of my girls and broke her leg. When we went to Frankfurt, we took out an arm, a leg, and 2 noses, and it was totally accidental.
Woo!
Story, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay, all right. Look, I won't ask no more questions. All right.
But I got to. If you do what you love, you'll always do what you do. So science and sports have always been the things that I love, and I got to do what I do.
So you've talked a lot about people, and we've been talking a lot about youth and who you've coached, who you've mentored. Can you speak to some of your connections, mentorship that you have, relationships that you've made over time, teaching you things about yourself as it pertains to STEM, as it pertains to you as a person, connecting you to STEM, or connecting you to that inner teacher within you, just allowing you to be more successful. One of the things that I've learned, the first time I heard the phrase was I was in a pre-freshman program in college when I went to the University of Pennsylvania, and the individual, she was kind of prepping us and kind of coaching us. She said, respect your conglomerate. And what she was talking about was your network is key. And those who you have around you, your circle, the people that you run with, the people that, whether they're in your life for a second or in your life for a millennium, how you, I don't want to say make use of to signify manipulation, but how you use those connections and how you all meld together is key. So can you just lift maybe some of those interactions or some of those connections that really helped you out and how it helps you move forward?
Well, you deal with people for, I hate to say it like this, for different reasons, and they bring out different things. Excuse me. They bring out different things in you and in your life. Mentors can be people that positively mentor you and you're like, oh, I want to be like that person. Mentors can be negative people and say, you know what, I really don't want to do that. I learn from their mistakes. And then you have people in your life that that center you. I have a very, very, very good friend, Audrey. Her degree is in computer science. We grew up together, and Audrey's retired now. And we used to make quilts together because we used to sew. Anytime I need to be brought back down to earth or recentered,
Mm. Right.
that's who I connect with, because it's not talking anything technical. It's just
Right.
that's my normality. But when I first came back to teaching, and I started teaching high school biology, I had a principal, or still, we're still really, really, really close friends. Her name is Precious. That is her name, Precious. Uh, she used to tell me to check my face,
Mm.
because being in the military, you have this stern face, and being in a female in the military in male-dominated fields, um, you would have this face like, okay, did you really do that? And
Mm-hmm.
I think I must have had those faces with my kids. And she used to tell me, she says, "You're a great teacher, but you need to check your face sometime." And I'm like, "What do you mean check my face?" And my kids, my colleagues used to say, "Okay, what are you thinking? Because your face isn't right."
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have those people that put you on the right track. You have to have those people that you want to attain to. I want to do what you're doing.
Right.
You have those people that you want to say, "Ooh, I don't think I want to do that," but um, they all bring something to the table to you, and you bring something to the table to them. It can be family, it can be people in leadership. I remember when I was teaching in Germany, I was teaching for what then was Central Texas College. Um, I had this General Lightfoot, big, tall female, and I had a class of probably 30 plus men. I didn't have any female students in that class. And so I would get speakers to come in, and she came in and she said that she did airborne, air assault. She went to Command and General Staff College. She went to all of these schools. And she said, "I did it because I was a woman and nobody could stop me."
Mm.
When she took command in Germany, her entire staff, except for her executive officer, when they transitioned out, she filled her staff with women, qualified women, extremely qualified women. And then when her executive officer left, she made Colonel Burns then, which is now General Burns, her she retired, her XO. And she told me one time, we were in the field and I had to call her for something. She said, "I have been in organizations. Nobody ever asked when every man in the every head of staff in the organization is a man.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody's asked me why are all my staff women. Never asked if they were qualified,
But why are they women?
but why are they women? Never. I mean, and everyone was extremely qualified in what they did. I've had people like that have made sure I took the right road and put me in my right place. When I had Taylor, um, I had several people that came to me that were in leadership and said they had a list of things that I would do to make sure that we took care of him, and my military career did not take precedence over my family, and that to make sure I will be successful. And you have to have those people in your life. You can't do it by yourself.
Mm. You know, going back to, I guess, a combination of children and just the scientific mind and people. My godfather and minister mentioned this quote, and he said that our children do what is natural until we teach them what's normal.
Yeah.
How dangerous or how impressive is normalcy on the scientific or critical thinking mind, particularly in this day and age?
Um, you have to have some normalcy, some, because you're normal. your normal is your reality check. Um, if I put dry ice in a closed bottle with some water in it, it's gonna blow up. Okay. That's that mind check that you should have. But if I put dry ice in an open bottle with water, it's just gonna make really great steam. The normalcy is that litmus check of doing the right thing and exploration. With my students, even with my kids, as long as it didn't blow something up and you wanted to try it, we tried it. Okay, as long as it didn't start a huge fire, we tried it. But growing up, and I'm gonna say this because I'm a child of many years ago. It was, I'm not gonna say I was a rebel, but I was that child that could always come up with, not always, but a lot of times came up with another way to do something, especially mathematically, especially mathematically. And in elementary and middle school, I had teachers that would say, you can only work this problem this way. And I'm like, but I get the same answer if I do it that way where you're wrong. And so I had a little bit of conflict in my life because I would come up with other ways of doing things. But when it came to science, I had teachers that were like, give it a shot. If it don't blow up, you're okay. And I was given the opportunity to try it. But their biggest thing was, if you're going to do it, if you're going to build it, if you're going to test it, you have to write it down. If it didn't work, why did it not work?
Right.
If it did work, why did it work? And can you do it again? If you build it and it was stable, what made it stable? You had to document or write down what you were doing in case you ever wanted to do it again. And so, but that little bit of you can only do it this way, you can only do it the right way. I guess I was weird. It didn't always work with me because it's not that I looked for workabouts and I never did my homework at the last minute, but I would always find other ways to do it. Not always, but sometimes find another way to do it. And I challenged people because people challenge me.
Right.
Even now, even being here, I have a student who, in my chemistry class, he would try to shortcut ways of doing things. Sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't.
Right.
And we would discuss, okay, why did you do this? Explain it to me because I may want to. A lot of times I may want to do it the way the kid did it.
Right.
It made sense to them, and a lot of times it makes sense to other kids who aren't primarily English speaking kids.
Right.
And then I had a kid here who every time I would say something, he would log into his computer and fact check me. I loved it. And he's like, you don't get upset when I type, search something that you said? I said, no. Because when you don't do that, that means you take whatever somebody says at face value.
Face value.
Mm-hmm. Your mind stops growing.
Right.
So.
And you want to keep cultivating that want and that yearning to grow, that yearning to just really be as the human being is, a naturally inquisitive being, one who looks to understand his or her surroundings. I wanted to go into your show. You have a STEM show and everything, and I was just looking into kind of, I guess, the general gist, trying to read up on it. So you kind of go into, like, I guess, what the motivation behind the show is, and what you hope to, like, I guess, do in terms of when you have your guests on there, and what you all talk about, and what do you hope that listeners get from it when they listen in?
Well, in talking about the show was not my idea.
Okay.
I have friends who always find something else that I need to do.
Right.
I have a friend, Dr. Linda Mubarak. She kept telling me, she goes, "You need to have a radio show." I'm like, "No, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I am." I started it last year. I'm like, I am. We want to say how old I am. I said, nobody wants to hear an old lady talk about STEM. She said, yes, they do, because you talk about it all the time. You're always talking about what you do. You talk about what you did in class. You talk about what you did at the university. You talk about who you met. Because I've met like the neatest people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, okay, I'll try it. My thing was I was going to do it for 3 months just to see. And 15 months later, I'm still doing it. But it's all about STEM radio. Um, what we started out and we still do this. It is for the STEM community. It can be students, parents, teachers, administrators, people in the STEM fields, from engineers to doctors to lawyers to um, it does not have all of these great high people.
Right.
It is anybody that has STEM as a common thread in the community. I've had 12-year-old kids on my show up to retired NASA mathematicians, TED Talk people. Lately, since I've been here, the show has gone relatively international. I've had a wonderful author from Vietnam. I've had, and I'm going to go visit these people next week
Okay.
from ISU Verse. They're in India. So I'm going to India next week. Um, this week I've had a gentleman from Tanzania. Tanzania. I know I'm not pronouncing it right. They're going to come on in September, but tomorrow's show is a what is he? He is a design manager from England. Is going
Mm.
to be on the show tomorrow morning. So it's just this big STEM community. When I was doing the show in studio, just some of the people that I got to meet. Dr. Johnson, what is her first name? I cannot think of her name. She's in Atlanta. Y'all have got to go meet her. I got to link y'all up with her. Because y'all are in Atlanta. Well,
Tariq,
some of
well,
you are in
Tariq's in Atlanta, and my fiance's in Atlanta. I'm in Philadelphia right now, so but
Atlanta.
definitely can get there.
She's from Texas, but she
Okay.
has a charter school, a STEM charter school. I'm going to say it again, a STEAM charter school in Georgia. This place is phenomenal. She was the first African American um, oceanographer. She got her bachelor's from Texas A&M Corpus, and she got her master's from there also. But she is a phenomenal woman, and to have her on the show, and her kids came, it was
Mm-hmm.
great. Uh, but just the people in the STEM community that I met has just opened my eyes to how big this community really is. But it also opened my eyes on how the community is really not in the forefront. You have a lot of people out there doing things, but a lot of people don't know. You have
Right.
kids that are doing things. You have organizations that are doing things, but they really had no platform. And when I started this, I'm like, nobody's even gonna listen to me. Nobody
Right.
could care. People could care less about,
Right.
making bottle rockets.
Right.
But it has been a blessing. And when I came to Korea, I was going to just stop the show and not do it at all. And people here were like, no, you have to keep going. So I would do it in my classroom from 8 to 8:40 in the morning, because school started at 8:40, and I don't cut my kids short at all.
That's right.
So when my kids came in the classroom, we put on music and I started teaching. And every once in a while, I'd convince them to get on camera and say something on the show. But and then I had my math teachers here, my science teachers here, my counselor. I mean, virtually the majority of the teachers here have been on the show also. But it's just a platform for all things STEM, and
Right.
and it's helped me to connect with people like y'all.
And that's, that's really what we're driving home to kind of get into. It's like you mentioned, there's so much people are doing that people just don't know. There was a lecture outside of our mosque in Chicago,
Mhm,
Mosque Mariam and everything, and the sisters, which it was, she was talking about, buying black and the whole concept of supporting our own. And she was talking about, she feels that our issue sometimes is not so much that we're disunited, but that we're disconnected,
mhm.
and that we don't know one another. Because there are some of us who just, I'm not going to work with him or her because they're Republican. Or I'm not going to work
Yeah.
with him or her because they're Muslim. Or I'm not going to work with him or her because they live on this corner that they rent on and don't own nothing on. And I live on this corner that I rent on and don't own nothing on. So, but it's those of us who really want to do good, and
Mhm.
there's somebody right around the corner that has that X factor that will allow us to put ourselves over the hump to get to our dream, but we won't knock on
Mhm.
their door. We won't
Mhm.
go over there and eat dinner with them because it's just not in our routine. So
Mhm.
it's just so much out here in terms of information, knowledge sharing, and that's why shows like ours, or we feel like a show like ours needs to be done. Shows like yours needs to be done because Black people in STEM, I think more than anything, people need to understand that this is not a new phenomenon.
No,
Right.
no.
This is something that has been and will be, it has always been.
Mhm.
Some of the most useful things, groundbreaking things have been done by our people and continue to be done by our people of all ages. And that
Mhm.
STEM is a gateway to the future in terms of pushing
Yes.
society forward. So that's why, like, when I was younger, I always knew it was going to be STEM because when I looked at what I wanted to do, I always looked at impact. And I always looked at what can I get that no one can take from me?
Mhm. And you're
What
right.
can I get that I can impart to my children, to people who look up to me and build a legacy, for my family? So, oh man, you're definitely a breath of fresh air. Not that I don't interact with people, but just your whole spirit, your attitude about it. You remind me so much about my mom because how you talk about education. My mother can talk about education all day, nonstop. Like you can sit there and you won't say nothing, and she'll keep talking. And I'm so thankful that love of education was imbued in me in a early age. That not so much school, but
Mhm.
learning. Like
Yes.
I was a good student and everything, and will continue to be a good student. It's just, but everything's a learning experience. You can learn from anybody, from anywhere, and
Mhm.
that at the end of the day, truth is the ultimate authority. No matter who it comes from, just because you don't like the person, they don't look like you, they may even dislike people like you or hate you, but what they said out
Mhm.
their mouth is true. So at the end of the
Mhm.
day, you got to bow down to what they said because, like, you know what? I got to submit that was true. Oh man, so I really, 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 really appreciate, just the energy you brought. I've
Thank
learned
you.
so much. You're very welcome. From like you, and it's just like you represent so much of what I want to do and the type of person I want to be. And I think a lot of our listeners want to be in terms of making that impact and following one's dream and just living in the moment and seeing that smile on people's faces. Tariq. Oh yeah, I think Tariq's. I'm trying to get back on. Give me a quick
Okay.
second.
But I want to say something about what we were talking about
Yes,
before
ma'am.
we started
Go
the
ahead.
show.
I'm sorry.
You know, you said you went to Japan and you went to, I mean, was it Japan or China?
Japan. Japan.
Japan. And you were working on the ships and you were talking about the balances and all of that. and the small crafts back during when we had conflict that would take people from the ship to the shore.
Right.
So back in the day, back then, World War One, World War II, Korean War conflict, all of those. Um, when they integrated the military, a lot of the soldiers, the African American soldiers, only went into service support industry inside of military because that's where they put them. And chemical, because I'm chemical, and that's the reason I'm chemical because that's where they let us go.
Right.
But the crafts that they used to move from ship to shore were called tugboats. I don't know if you knew that.
Okay.
Tugboats were piloted by all African American troops.
Mm.
They were built by all women.
Wow.
And I say that because my almost 30 years in the military, every time I had to write a paper when I went to Command and General Staff College, when I went to CASQ, when I went to ILE, you always have a major paper that you have to write. And I would always find something in one in STEM, and two that was African American driven. And trust me, I got some looks, but we have been on, as my younger son said, we've been on the back end of STEM all our lives.
Right.
We've either built it, designed it, or operated it,
Right.
and we got to get to the forefront. I mean, I knew of what we're calling the hidden figures now.
Right.
I knew of them when I was a kid. My mother always told me about them.
Right.
And that's why she supported all of the foolishness and crazy that I used to do as a kid, and
Right.
saying that it was normal.
Right.
Uh, but we've always been there. I posted something on my Facebook page not long ago about the flight engineer or the engineer um, for Howard Hughes. He was a black guy. A lot of people didn't know that. I ran across that. I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to post this.
Mm-hmm.
We've been out there forever. Women have been out there forever. African Americans have been out there forever. Um, young people have been out there forever doing things.
Right.
But to have a platform, I never realized till I started doing the show that there was not a platform
Right.
truly for the community. And I've had all kind of people on my show: black, white, Hispanic, male, female. One gentleman came in with his big old service dog. But we have to do that. You
Right.
know, we have to be there. So,
Wow.
but I need to do this because I made sure Tariq did it on my show. My radio show is all about STEM radio.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
It
Yes,
airs
ma'am.
every Wednesday from 6 to 7 on the 6 to 7 p.m. Central Time on the Fishbowl Network on the Blue Bowl. And you can follow me at All About STEM Radio on Facebook. I have to remember to say that because I never talk about myself.
But and you have to, it's crazy because if you didn't, I was going to make you. So and that's an awesome segue because I was actually going to get into doing just that. Like, where can people follow you, all that jazz? And
Ooh, yeah,
so
something
sorry.
failed.
That's what happens when you're having fun. That's what happens when you're having fun. All right, nothing to see here, everyone. All right, I'm back to being the very cool and swaggy engineer. All right. So on that note, it's we're approaching the end of our show. Like the good doctor just said, you can see you can follow her for all of her information on our radio show and everything. And also, can you tell us again about your book series as
My
well, if
book,
you want to
Taylor,
get that as well?
my book series is Taylor STEM Adventures. It is following a military child as he goes from one military station to the other with his parents in the eyes of STEM. And these are actual things and places and stuff that you can actually do because we actually did it. and it's written on the third to fifth grade using third to fifth grade STEM vocabulary. So it's good for not only military kids, but anybody who travels. It's great for teachers. And I'm developing activities. So if a teacher wants a lab or something that they want to do with their students in class, they can email me and I'll shoot it to them, because that's another thing in our um, big but small community. There's a lot out there that our teachers still really, really, really need, especially our young teachers.
Awesome, awesome. And then that's, you heard it here first, family. And in that same vein, if you like what you've seen, like what you've heard, I want you to power smash that like button, subscribe to OMSTV on YouTube. Follow us on all of our social media at OMANSci underscore on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also on Instagram, OMS underscore TV. If you want to learn more about Original Man Scientific, the company, go to www.omansci.com. Go to information at omansci.com for more information, and go to the services page, look at consultations and other services that we offer. Again, primary place is www.omansci.com and at omansci underscore Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. This has been awesome. Anything else you'd like to leave the fans and the wonderful watchers and listeners with, Ms. Payton?
Parents, children, families, get out and do something STEMish over the summertime. I don't care if it's to plant a small garden or to create blow cars. Get out and do something as a family that relates to STEM. So get involved, go to the library. So have fun.
The library. I wonder if people still know what the library is.
Oh, there's a lot of
Homeschool.
stuff going on at
The library, man. That when I was homeschooled, the library was where it's at. The library was the club. It was in there reading. You got the little movies. I was in the little camps. Oh man, the library was where it's at. The little STEM camps and everything.
Yep.
Oh man. So y'all heard it first. The library is where it's at. The cool kids go to the library. All right. So with that, fam, this has been another installment of the STEM Files on OMSTV on YouTube. Again, no longer on Blog Talk Radio. No longer on Blog Talk Radio. I am your host, co-host, Jabril Muhammad, a.k.a. Jabrillion Engineer. Normally joined by my co-host and chairman of Original Man Scientific, Tariq Muhammad, or Magna Cardiac. And this has been Dr. Mary Payton. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. Like, subscribe, share. Love y'all all. Until next time, peace. Thank y'all. Have a good night.